We have a little over 200 full-time employees. We grew 171% this year over last year despite COVID. I have a chief of staff. I have a lot of people in HR that make sure that whoever we bring on board isn't going to contaminate the culture. And we're very, very big on culture. The national turnover rate in a company is 28 to 33% in the US. Ours is 2%, 2% turnover. Nobody wants to leave.
You were built for greatness, and I want to help you succeed.
Welcome to the Sigurd Vedal Show.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Today's guest is an amazing entrepreneur. Vic Tipnis is a true success story. After having built his first business, being sued, getting a divorce, and losing it all, Vic started over from the bottom and built a new multi-million-dollar company called Blackstone Medical Services. Founded in 2012 in his kitchen with no revenue, no family support, and only $78 to his name. Vic grew Blackstone Medical Services into the largest provider of at-home sleep testing in the United States, beating out companies that had been in business for over 15 years. It wasn't easy. Vic faced many adversities, from 2 close calls of bankruptcy, losing investors, losing business partners, to wondering how he was going to make payroll and keep the lights on. Vic has faced it all and knows firsthand what it's like to be a real entrepreneur, pulling up one's bootstraps and forging ahead despite the odds. Fast forward just a few years, Vic is now an Amazon best-selling published author, releasing his first book, Did You Sell Your Soul, in August 2020. And Blackstone has achieved the Inc. 5000 fastest growing company recognition 4 years in a row, listed number 1820 in the US in 2020 with a 383% growth rate. Blackstone is also expanding rapidly and now has over 200 employees and will be opening a South American office in Medellin, Colombia by the end of this year. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Vic Tipnis.
What's up, brother?
All good. You guys are the guys with the sunshine. I heard you were in Florida, huh?
Yeah, Tampa, Florida, man.
Wow, that's amazing. Lucky devils, Here it's like it's like pitch dark, man. I'm waking up in darkness and I'm going to bed in darkness.
Where are you at?
Right now I'm in Oslo, Norway.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tied here because of COVID. Of course, I've been doing some traveling, but I'm trying to stay safe and sound and do my part of keeping this shitty virus under control, huh? But I actually have a condo in Fort Lauderdale. I moved
in. Way.
Yeah, I moved in, and I was, that's where I'm planning on having my US base, right? 50% of the time.
Yeah.
But, I rented this condo, and it's right on the beach, beautifully, perfect, amazing beach. In a kind of small area called Lauderdale by the Sea, which is kind of, a little bit smaller type of thing, and the beaches are empty. Yeah. And I signed this deal in February and moved in February, signed a 1-year lease and ordered a sofa. I got half of the sofa delivered. The rest was going to come later. And then I ordered a lot of podcast equipment because I was going to set up my podcast there. And what happened was we left. We thought we were going to come back 3 weeks later, and kind of got stuck here, right?
Wow, man.
So now the lease, we just signed the exit here on the lease. So, because there's no point, I won't be able to get over there now. Everybody knew the second wave would come, so it wasn't a surprise to me. So, but I can't wait to get over there. I loved it, man. I love the beach. I love the lifestyle, and I'm half American, so that's kind of, I feel more at home there than here in Norway, to be honest. But I have my family here, so I like variation, Vic, living different places, traveling the world, and this digital nomad kind of lifestyle is something that I enjoy more and more,
Well, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, man, you only be like a few hours away from me. I'm just like 2.5 hour drive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been to Busch Garden and stuff, a lot with my kids. We went there 10 years ago when they were younger. And it's an amazing place. So
nice. How old are your kids? You have 2 kids?
My oldest is 18. So of course that's a new experience for me. But he's good. He's a good boy. And then we have one which is 17, which is aiming to be a pro gamer in Counter-Strike. So he's sitting on his computer most of the time. And then I have the young one, which is 8, which is he's the guy that I still have the tension of, you know how it is.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. That's amazing.
What about you?
So, I have two boys from a previous marriage. They're 17 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I just recently got married a year ago. And
Congratulations.
so thank you, man. Thank you. So we're planning on having another one maybe in a year or so. So I'll
That's
be
cool.
a new dad again. So I'm excited about
Yes,
that.
that's amazing.
When I had my kids the first time, I was around 25, 26, which was just super young.
Yeah.
But
Me too.
now I'm 44. So, it's a different experience.
Yeah, I'm 49, dude. I'm 50 next year. That's a new experience too.
Wow. But you look great, bro. You look great, man.
We feel young, I mean, I believe in the power of the mind, right? So, I mean, if we keep
Absolutely.
ourselves happy, and I'm this, optimistic believer in nothing is really impossible kind of thing. And I think that kind of transforms into life, doesn't it? I mean,
It absolutely
you
does.
keep happiness as your compass and passion as your compass, and you make sure to kind of, get rid of course, you have to have your responsibilities and do your responsibilities as a father, husband, whatever.
Yeah.
But still, outside of that, don't accept average, man. Don't accept doing something you don't like doing, except if the goal is big enough for you to actually want to do that shitty thing that you don't really want to do.
Right.
But I believe that, I believe that passion is the key, That's kind of what I'm teaching my sons as well, that don't think so much about following in my footsteps. Don't think so much about, being perfect at school. Just focus on the knowledge and filling your brain with as much knowledge as possible. And
that
find something you
mindfulness
love.
stuff is
Sorry?
ridiculous. That mindfulness stuff doesn't work. It's just about focusing on your purpose, man. Purpose is what really makes you happy.
It is.
If you have no purpose, no goals, you're dead.
Yep. But you also have the fact that, in my experience at least, when you achieve the dreams, when the dreams come true, especially if they're like, buying a Lambo or getting a big house, or you have all those fantasies, right? But when you actually achieve those fantasies, in my experience, maybe there's something wrong with me, but in my experience, they kind of diminish, right? They're never as big as the fantasy, So you kind of have these visions. I have my vision board. I'm dreaming of, I dreamed of having a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something. And then you have it. It's really cool the first day, right? But how many times you're going to drive around with that and really drive from 0 to 100? You don't do that. You're driving in traffic, man. So what are you going to do? I mean, you have a car and it's really cool. It's an amazing part of engineering, but the fantasy was huge because I wanted that car. And then when I got it, it was like, okay, it becomes a car. No.
That's why you have to keep reinventing more goals, because your happiness is momentarily when you get that thing, right? And then once you get that thing, if you don't have another goal behind that, bro, you're done.
It is. So it's actually a series of goals, right? If you have a purpose, like for example, now with my coaching, I'm not really a coach, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, people come to me for solutions, but probably like you too, I read your story and impressive when I get to that in a second. But, in general, it's I mean, it's kind of hard work. You have to get up from nothing and start building. And then, as you move forward, you kind of adjust your goals. And my goal in the beginning was, after my dad died, was I needed to make some change. I realized, okay, I had this amazing career. I had a new house. I had, 2 wonderful children. I had a beautiful wife. But in reality, I wasn't really that happy. So, that awakening, when he died, and seeing him on the table at the morgue was like, okay, Sigurd, you need to get your shit together. What do you actually want to accomplish now? You're not going to live forever. So that kind of made me ask some questions. What am I doing? Why am I doing the things that I started ranking actually all the things I was doing in the last 6 months, and realized, okay, when I started to rank these, I realized there was a lot of things that I didn't really enjoy doing. I didn't really appreciate my job. The managers and the leadership were kind of doing their best to demotivate me, more or less. It was just my inner motivation that was driving me.
Right.
But, when you kind of ended up, building this fortune and starting my company, doing e-commerce, and then suddenly, I started this social media thing, sharing the stuff and sharing the knowledge as a marketing tool. And I realized, shit, there's a lot of people that are actually, getting an improved life out of this. And that's when I started going to the coaching thing. And then I started, okay, now I need to find some people, some managers, CEO and stuff, to take care of my normal businesses so I can deal with this, because I realized this is really fun, man. It's really amazing. Maybe it's my age.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my age or whatever it is, but seeing the results and impacting people, I don't think there's anything better, huh?
No, it's nothing better, man. Helping
That's what you
others.
did in your business
Huh?
too. You did that in your business. That's what you did in your business. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely. We help a lot of people all
I
throughout
would
the
like
country.
to, how did you start, man?
So, I started literally in my kitchen
Hmm.
in 2012, and I really just had this
That's
idea.
recent.
So, someone had sent me an email about home sleep testing,
Mhm.
a medical device,
Yep.
and I could see that sleep testing or sleep apnea was something that was very emerging, and I felt like it could be something big at a later date,
Mm.
because at that time there were a few people talking about it, but not a lot. And so I literally just said, okay, how can I build a company around this thing
Mm.
that would be scalable, that I could do it over and over and over again in every city, every state in the US. And I literally started in my kitchen with two devices. I called the manufacturer. I bought two devices, and I started going to doctors' offices and saying, "Hey, I have this medical device that you can test for sleep apnea in your home instead of having to go to a hospital or a sleep lab."
Mm.
And a lot of people were like, "Well, I never heard of that before. I heard it's not accurate, and this and that." And it was just a lot of false information. They didn't know that it actually was the equivalent test that you would do in a hospital
Mm.
or a sleep lab. And so I literally started like that, and I was going door to door. I rented a small 500 square foot office. It's literally about the size of my office here right now.
Mm. Yeah.
And my rent was $500 a month. And I started with one employee, Lindsay, who's still with me today. She's my office manager today.
Cool.
And I started going out and talking to doctors and saying, "Hey, would you refer me business?" And it was a very slow start.
Mm.
It was a very, very slow start. I kind of got on
What kind
first
of a
base.
unit were you selling? Can you describe? Because maybe I go picky here, right? But I love
Yeah.
dig deep, right? Because this show is all about inspiring coming entrepreneurs and walking people through what you were doing. What
Yeah.
was the device? Was it something big, something small? Was
No,
it
it's about this size. It kind of
okay?
looks about like this. It weighs everything is about under a pound.
Okay.
And it's a device that you basically strap onto yourself,
Mhm.
and it has a nasal cannula and a pulse oximeter. And we measure your nasal flow, your oxygen, your breathing, your respiratory, and your heart rate, and all of that. And basically, we have physicians that take that data, and then we diagnose you. We tell you if you have sleep apnea or not, or if you have something else related to a sleep disorder. And so we do that over and over and over again, and we test close to almost 200,000 new patients every year, and
And how's the
growing.
process? They you go out, you get a client, right? What do? You go home to them in the evening? Walk me through the process.
Yeah, so
Find
let's
this to
say
be
that the
interesting.
patient is in Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
We don't go to their house.
Mhm.
So the physician in Dallas, Texas refers the patient to us,
Got it.
right? Sends us the prescription and the information for the patient. We have reps all over the country that are marketing to these physicians.
Yep.
And we then ship the device
Mm.
to that patient, usually overnight or two-day shipping. They get the device, the test. It's like a testing kit. They get the testing kit. They do the test for 2 nights, put it back in the same box. It's kind of like Netflix, put everything back in the same box, send it back to us.
Ship it back. Smart.
Ship it
Smart,
back.
man.
So they ship it back to us. And then we, from our Tampa office, is our headquarters. We have all the physicians and everything here, and we diagnose all the patients here. And then we send the results to that referring physician in Dallas.
That's super. And what kind of a price tag do you have on it? Like how do you price it?
The test ranges anywhere from $200 to $400, depending
Yep.
on
Not
either
bad.
if it's a cash pay or insurance or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And so we've recently branched out into, just not to sidetrack the conversation, but we recently branched out into mobile cardiac telemetry. So
Okay.
we now have a device that we ship to your house that we monitor your heart.
Mm. But that's super. I mean, if you think about the problem you're solving, I mean, $300-400 for people who have sleeping disorders, who's struggling to sleep. I mean, without sleep, you're drained, man. I mean, I can be quite honest with you, I've struggled with sleeping most of my life, especially because my brain is always on thinking mode. It's always, I love to reflect. I love to analyze. My IQ is 151. So I'm kind of always pumping that CPU. And of course, during sleep, my machine doesn't stop, especially if I'm obsessed. So you have something you love doing, right? You have something you're obsessed about. You really want to reach that goal. And everything you do is kind of focused on getting to that goal. For me, I find it hard to stop my brain, right? It's almost like I don't want to go sleep because I want to continue in a sense, right? And that's really so in the beginning, I just went to bed. I was, working up until right before bedtime and jumping in bed and kind of like lying there. Okay, I have to sleep now, dude.
Yeah.
And then you realize it doesn't work. And you start, researching. I started to read a lot. I started to, of course, the doctors, they just give you sleeping pills, right? That's the first thing they do. Like every single doctor I've gone to, what they've done is given me some sleep tablets, right? So I've been, and then you wake up totally zonked out because the sleeping tablets don't give you the right REM and deep sleep, so you kind of end up just drained. But I mean, there's kind of, you know this because you're the expert in the field, but I've studied this a lot because of my own problems. And there's a clear connection between sleeping and hours and lifetime, right? Like your lifespan. I can't remember the figures, but it was around 20% decrease lifetime if you slept less than 6 or 7 hours per night, over a longer period. So it's kind of dramatic.
It's pretty significant. I mean, I think that, I went to this birthday party last weekend, and there was a gentleman there that was overweight, wasn't sleeping well, needed to do the test. I hope he gets the test done. But there's 90 million Americans that are presumably undiagnosed with sleep apnea. I mean, it is one of the 10 global health concerns.
The people who don't know what sleep apnea is, can you explain it in simple words, simple terms?
Yeah. So the word apnea comes from the Greek word without breath. Okay. So sleep apnea is sleep without breath. And essentially it's a momentary lapse of time where you're not breathing for 10 seconds or more during the night. And some people have, a few episodes a night. Some people have 60 to 100 times, sometimes more, where they're literally for 10 seconds or more, they're not breathing. And then the body goes into kind of like a fight or flight syndrome, and the brain sends a signal to the lungs to breathe. And it jolts the body to wake up to breathe. And that's why you're not getting deep sleep, because your body's coming out of deep sleep because it thinks that it's suffocating. Right. So it's a very serious thing. And unfortunately, people can't, if they're trying to lose weight and they have sleep apnea, it's very difficult because they're not getting REM sleep. Their body's not getting the proper, time to metabolize at night, and just creates it creates a chain of events that are just not good for you.
Sure. And the biggest problem is the mind, right? You have to believe that you can sleep, because I've had periods where I was shit scared of my bedroom, man. You just see your bedroom and you don't want to go in there because you're kind of connecting that bedroom to the painful nights you're tumbling and tossing and turning, right? For hours and hours. I've been through that shit, man, for many years. Now, of course, for me, what worked was, I wish I had that diagnosis 10 years ago, right? Because I could have at least ruled that out. What happened, I went to the doctor, I was struggling to sleep, and they gave me pills. That's kind of simple rundown, right? And then I started trying these pills, and you get addicted to the pills. And then the pills make you kind of this, this wool head. So, of course, getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning, like I do now for the last, 8-9 years, is not really possible when you're going on pills, right? You have to have a really strict routine. And then, of course, what worked for me was going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, having my habits, right? So I started to discover the habits after I jumped off employment, because, of course, then I got into, I started to surround myself with the right people. I started to learn more about habits. And, I spend 2-3 hours every morning while I'm gymming and running and all that stuff to get new knowledge, even though, I don't really need more knowledge, but I love it. It's one of my biggest passions in life is acquiring new knowledge and figuring out how everything is working, right? So, going to bed at the same time, making sure I'm avoiding, those coffees after 5 and 6. And of course, the energy drinks are a killer. So, there's a lot of people struggling. What are the symptoms? How do you know it's apnea? And how do you know it's just, other reasons for waking up multiple times?
It's very simple. If you're sleeping, let's say 7, 8 hours at night,
Yep.
right? But yet you're still tired during the day,
Mm.
or you're dozing off while watching TV, or you're
Yep.
dozing off while driving,
Mm.
and you're just tired. It's a huge indicator that you may have sleep apnea. If you snore at night, it's obviously a big indicator, but it's not necessarily connected that if you
Got it.
snore, you have sleep apnea.
Mm.
If you're trying to lose weight and you're having a hard time losing weight, or you're just gradually, slowly gaining more weight, your body mass index is over 30.
Because that's
Any
what
of these types of things.
That's what a lot of people don't get, is that actually it's tightly linked, not just to lifetime expectancy, but it's tightly linked to actually weight loss. Like I would say it's almost impossible. Of course, if you stop eating altogether, right, then maybe you'll of course lose weight because it's the calorie budget, right? But in terms of sleep, if you're not sleeping, you're not burning as enough as you could. It's the same principle as if you do 1 hour of gym. You continue with a higher metabolism for a long period of time. Of course, it does die out over the day. But if you're running 1 hour, quite medium to high impact and maybe intensive for 4 times 4 minutes with 2 minutes breaks or something similar, if you do that for 1 hour, you're burning a lot. But the same thing with sleep. If you're not sleeping, of course, your metabolism goes down quite a lot. Do you know how much, by the way?
I don't know exactly how much. I think it varies quite a bit for different people because everyone's metabolism is different. But I've never seen a study on the rate of that change.
But I mean, that's a big problem you're solving. So I mean, no wonder what was the competition at the time when you started? Was it kind of, these huge, as you mentioned, these huge sleep clinics where you have to come in, the patient has to come in there, they have to sleep in a foreign place over the night?
There were a lot of large regional sleep clinics. There were a few large national home sleep testing companies that have been around since I was in high school. And I'll tell you that what happened is, we came into the market and we were very forward thinking in how we approached the business. And a competitor of ours filed for bankruptcy about 2 years ago. And at that point, we were the second largest in the country, and they were the first.
Good job.
And then we looked at purchasing them, and we ended up basically, a lot of their salespeople left their company and came to work for us. And then at that point, we just expanded like crazy.
Yeah.
And
what was you were a challenger, right? You launched as a challenger product, right?
Yeah, we're a disruptive healthcare company. Yeah.
So what was your edge? Like, if you look at it in hindsight, what was your magical differentiator? What was the one thing that really you think made the biggest impact in your attack on the bigger, larger ones and actually overcoming them?
I don't think it's one thing. I think that, yesterday I had somebody message me and say, I'm really trying to, expand my business. And, what did you do? Because a lot of people, I got a phone call, I think about 3-4 months ago, and a friend of mine called me and he goes, what happened? And I said, what do you mean? He says, you just blew up. You just went from here to, it was exponential. And I told him, I said, well, it's not one. He goes, what is it? And I said, dude, it's not one thing. I said that what I've been able to do, and I think what a lot of other successful entrepreneurs have been able to do, is they found exactly what moves the needle in their business. And that can be 3 or 4 things for me. It could be 3 or 4 things or 7 things for you. I don't know. But what I did was I identified what were those things. I really observed, investigated, looked, and said, okay, what are those things for me? And then once I identified what those things were for me, that's all I focused on. I didn't come over here and focus on all this other stuff that was maybe more alluring or exciting or easier to obtain. I went over here and I said, okay, these are the 5 things that I got to focus on every single day. And every single day I woke up like the rent was due. And those were the 5 things that I focused on. obsessively,
I know.
and I still do today, obsessively.
Yeah.
And so that's the answer. The answer is it's never one thing. Michael Jordan was not the greatest at what he did because of one thing, because he ate eggs a certain way. That's bullshit.
Yep.
It's based on a lot of things done consistently, obsessively over time.
And the beauty, the devil is in the details, huh?
Man, hey, the devil is in the details so much. I think a lot of people just overlook it, and they think that they understand the details of their business. And I'll have a conversation with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'll start asking questions, and I'll start digging, and you'll be surprised that there's a very small percentage of entrepreneurs that really understand the minute details of their business. They don't know it. And I question them, and I drill them, and I say, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I think that's this, or I think that's that.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't operate that way. You can't operate that way.
You can't. And even, when I'm looking on social media, you have all this about perfectionism, right? And then like many other things, they kind of simplify it a lot, right? They say, okay, don't be a perfectionist, like it's this evil thing. But, fucking Steve Jobs was a perfectionist like nobody else, but he was a perfectionist on the right things. He didn't wear shoes to college some years, right? He stunk going to work, right? But when it came to design, when it came to the right things, the customer surface areas, right? Like customer service, that first impression, the details of what you're shipping out, the cup on Starbucks, right? Everything needs to be not just perfect the first time, but I believe in multiple. What I do is I try to challenge myself. Anything I do something I'm proud of, I'm still asking the question, hey, can I level it up? Can I get that little add-on to it? Is there something I'm missing, some angle which I creatively try to come up to? And I think that's where a lot of people don't get me, because if you look at how people typically work, I had this speech with my recruitment team as well. I drew this flat line on the whiteboard, and I'm saying, okay, we're hiring somebody now. Okay, we want to have winners. We want to have the top talent, most passionate, high excellence level, stuff like that. And then I'm saying, okay, this is what most people do. You have the line here, and most people start looking, right? Then they come something here above the threshold of acceptance, and they're like, hey, Sigurd, we got it. We found this person. I'm sending you his CV. But the reality is, don't stop there, man. If you continue, okay, you might have a couple of drops here. Then suddenly you'll find something maybe this big, right? On the 30th try or something. And I think this is a philosophy. I mean, if you look at Michael Jordan, you look at, Magnus, the Norwegian top chess guy. I was watching his documentary and seeing how he was just running over and over again. You look at, Messi trying to get the goals. Everything is in the details, and people sometimes don't understand me because I have a lot of typos, right? When I'm typing on chat and emails, especially internally, I'm not really good at spelling. I'm terrible at spelling, right? So I'm kind of just, as long as, because I want to be speedy, right? I want to make sure that they get the message, but to sit there and spend half an hour to compose this perfect message. I try to simplify it, but if I have a typo, it takes time to go back and correct that. They get the point. But then I'm really notorious on design, right? I believe people buy what is designed. They look at it. That's how they judge a Lamborghini. I mean, most people buying a Lamborghini, they have no clue what's under the hood, right? So, I mean, they're looking at the car. Yeah. They're like, when I tried my new Tesla, I bought the new, biggest performance, fastest, whatever. It's just an amazing piece of art in terms of details, right? The way, the backing camera, the way he's thought about the ludicrous mode, to save battery, you can choose it. It's just extremely, you can just feel that the guy has been thinking about what would be cool from the driver's perspective, not from the engineer's perspective. And that was the whole philosophy with Steve Jobs, right? That's what he did. He took what was very engineering created, and he looked at it, he was able to look at it with the pain points and the struggles from the customer end. And then he basically found simplicity ways to make it simple, and ways to make it so well designed that you were proud of having a computer. You remember how the computers looked like before?
Yeah. I mean, it was the user experience, right? And I think that's,
it's everything.
That's what I think entrepreneurs have to focus on is, we talk about this a lot at Blackstone, is how do we maintain and continue to be the best in the world at what we do? From a user experience standpoint.
But you're saying that, right? You're saying we want to be best in the world. Because I think that's critical. I think a lot of companies are like, oh, we can't be the best in the world, and what are we to believe that we can be the best in the world, right? Same as me, I registered my trademarks globally before I even launched. I used my house money to launch
Right.
trademarks for 50K because I believed in
Right.
it so much. It was no B plan, no. I just wanted everything to be secure, perfect, the name, everything, And
Yeah.
and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're kind of not believing in that vision, right? They're kind of a little bit too realistic in a sense, and they confuse vision with the how. I don't care about the how yet. I just care about what would be amazing. So I'm designing things, right? Either it's a machine or it's a software or whatever. I'm thinking, hey, how would it be if I created this? What if this didn't
Yeah.
exist? And then you can kind of reverse engineer how to get there. But I think that's where I see a lot of people go wrong. They're like very much into, whenever I come with an idea, it's like, okay, but Sigurd, what if this happens? And oh, what about that? And they're all into this what ifs. And I'm like, okay, can you just stop thinking about how now? You don't need to know the how yet. Let's just start
Yeah.
thinking, is this a cool thing to try to make? Is this a cool
Yeah.
thing that will solve a problem? Don't you agree?
Yeah, totally. I think what happens is when you have an entrepreneur that has this mindset that they want to blow up their business and they want to expand, but they don't have this general concept of, okay, how do I be the best in the world at what I do? If you just understand that concept, it completely changes the way you operate your business.
Yep.
If you're now focused on being the best in the world at what you do, not in your city or your state or even regionally, we're talking world.
Yep.
So if you're looking at that, if you're looking at your business from that viewpoint, every decision you make is going to be quite different, right? It's going to be very different. Like, okay, I'm doing this now. Is this really the best in the world? Is this user experience the best in the world? Is the way that we're preparing this device or that we're providing the service to this customer, is it really the best in the world? And you look at the companies that focus on that, like Ritz Carlton or Lamborghini or Ferrari or Porsche. They're looking, hey, we want to be the best in the world at what we do.
Look at Nespresso. I love the example of Nespresso. I mean, it's
Nespresso,
coffee, man. It's literally powder. It's grounded powder from different parts of the world, and they freaking turned it into Apple. You understand?
Billions. Yeah, because they're trying to be the best in the world at what they do.
Yes, and they have the design there. They like people are actually they're picking a number to stand in the line. Just like at the tax-free where there's a big offer, and they actually wait in line to be able to buy that coffee. Like it's an insane achievement in my view. It's like a perfect example of the power of branding, but the product, of course, right? The product is amazingly simple. It's fun because you have all these different, types and colors, and you can try different things. You get that, not the same coffee. You actually taste some differences. Yeah. I think it's amazing. The way
it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And it comes through, you can see it in products that are really focused on being the best in the world at what they do. It just comes through. It's almost hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore a product or an entrepreneur that's trying to be the best in the world at what they do. It's almost like you can't shut them up.
Yep.
You can't dim the light.
Yep. Fully.
It's too bright of a light.
And they make sure to be ahead, like they commit to that head start. Like look at Tesla now, they're under attack, of course, because they shook up the whole car industry. Yeah. And now you have Volkswagen wanting to create their own factory locally in Germany, right? The same way that Tesla did in California to be able to control the production, but they're going to maintain that head start. The more pressure Elon will get is my prediction, at least, the harder he'll work. Like this guy never gives up. I wouldn't. Yeah, I know I never do. Like if anybody's breathing my back, I never think about giving up. I just try to find a way to accelerate. I pressure myself. I believe there's always one more limit, dude. There's always one more gear. Of course, you have to take care of your body. You have to sleep, just like, the products you're selling. But in general, that's mankind, no? In any look at the vaccine. Any threat that comes hard enough.
Absolutely.
It's not just about, is it possible or not, but the possibility ratio highly depends on the urgency and the the value of whatever and the desperation of whatever you need to come up with, right? Okay, getting to Mars might not be as big of a problem to mankind that it has a sense of urgency as getting a vaccine prepared for this crazy virus, so we can actually save the economy, save millions of lives. And they put their shit together. They were expecting there's no vaccine created in less than 1.5 years with testing. They freaking had the first vaccine ready and through the right phases by September, dude. That's unheard of, It's like, it's insane.
Well, that's unfortunately because we had a businessman in office and not a politician, man. That's the reason. Otherwise, that would have taken in another 12 years. There's no doubt about it. Politicians are all talk, no action.
Yeah, I think it's in my opinion, it's the medical industry, right? They see money in this, so of course Pfizer wants to win that race, right? They want to be best. So I think they did a job, and the reason they were working so hard was basically the opportunity of money and a huge business. That's kind of my 2 cents. But in terms of this. When you were scaling, you had a small team, but how did you tackle one of the biggest challenges in my view in entrepreneurship is the fact of being able to scale with people? Because I mean, you're like, I'm running a lot of e-commerce sites, and e-commerce is easier, right? I mean, you're not, I wouldn't say it's easier, it's different, right? It can run a little bit more passive, like it can with real estate. Of course you have to maintain it and stuff, but when you have a website live with the right funnel, with the right positioning, and you're just finding the right traffic sources to pump it, my ad, it's just running by itself. It's online, ticking money, especially the SaaS model, which is a lot of my sites. But you still need people, of course, but in a less way than for example, your industry, because you're dealing with salespeople that will make the difference between fail and win, right? And you're also expanding, which is adding the fact that even though I'm expanding globally through online, that's a different beast too. You have it based on people, right? And how do you control people, and find the right apples? Oh, of course you have the results, but how did you tackle this whole HR scale up, and how did you build that team? Because we're talking about 7 years you've scaled up since you started?
Eight years, yeah. Eight years. 2013.
Short time frame, man. So how did you scale up, and how many employees do you have now, or staff members?
No, we have a little over 200 full-time employees, and we grew 171% this year over last year despite COVID. And for us, it's really been making sure that we had a good funnel of applicants coming in. We had a great screening process. I have a chief of staff. I have a lot of people in HR that make sure that whoever we bring on board isn't going to contaminate the culture. And we're very, very big on culture. The national turnover rate in a company is 28 to 33% in the US. Ours is 2%, 2% turnover. Nobody wants to leave. Nobody wants to leave because we've created such a great culture, and we've created such a great environment where people can win. Right. And they come to work, and it's a great environment, great culture. People are incentivized to do well, to come up with bright ideas. And so when you have that type of environment, you have very little turnover. But what you also get is a lot of referrals from people that work here that say, hey, can you hire my friend? Can you hire my cousin? Can you hire my brother, sister, whatever? And so, we've been very picky about the people we hire. We're constantly going through a review process of people that we've hired and seeing where they're at, seeing how the culture is. Has the culture changed? If it has changed, why has it changed? Maybe in certain departments. We have our office here in Tampa, but we also have an office in Maryland, in Washington, and then we're opening an office in Medellin, Colombia in January. Cool. And we'll have probably about 150 people over there. So, when you have all that type of expansion and people, you have to make sure that you have core group of executives at the top that really understand the culture, are very much bought into that, and they're not hiring people that are going against that or have disagreements with that type of culture. Because that's where the mistake happens, right? Like you have this culture that you've created, and that's your kind of ideal scene. And if the people that are hiring aren't bought in fully to that, they hire people that are in disagreement with that. And
that's
then you just
Google,
have
I was reading the book about Bok now at Google. He's been heading the HR recruitment for Google for a lot of years. Really amazing book, by the way.
Yeah.
And they have an insane recruitment process, right? They even have their subordinates interview the new leader coming on board, right? Then they have the management group, and they do not allow managers to recruit their own teams. They go through a vetting process with other managers in the company to make sure it's not friends or family or people and a lot of managers, they want to hire people that basically aren't challenging them, right? Like they're worried about losing their job because they don't have confidence, and they're worried about number two coming up and challenging them for the number one and losing your job in a sense. So they hire, they hire people which aren't that good. So that's interesting. And in terms of your HR team, how big of a team do you have to manage? Like, how do you, in terms of recruitment, in terms of HR, what would you say your percentage of people are out of those 200 people that are working for you?
Not a lot. I think we have about 5 or 6 people that are in HR that just focus on that all day long, on hiring, interviewing, screening resumes, screening people, making sure culture is correct.
Yeah.
So you don't, when you pick the right people, there's less work on the back end that you have to do.
For sure.
So we've been very fortunate with that because we have the right executives that are making sure the people coming in are top quality.
Top quality. That's really key.
That's the key. That's the key.
It is. And let me guess, not a huge percentage of those people coming in are from job portals, huh? Most of them are headhunted. Most of them are referrals, as you said, because that's when.
No, it's a blend. It's a blend. We do a lot of advertisement on different websites. It's a blend.
Okay, good.
Because we're hiring all over the country, so we have ads all over the country. In different publications or ZipRecruiter or I don't know what. There's so many that our HR department uses, but they cost a lot of money. I think we spend probably $35,000-$40,000 a year on just ads. It's a lot of money
needed. I mean, if you think about it, the building blocks of the company is the people, right? So your biggest budget, or your most important, I wouldn't say the biggest, but the number one budget you should be assigning is for your HR marketing and employment branding, right? If you don't have that, what do you have? You basically have nothing. You'll struggle to get the people, you'll struggle to get the top people. So I think, of course, marketing and coming up with a culture, like you said, is of course key, and culture is king. I mean, doesn't matter if you have the best players if you don't have the culture and the right operating system and the right vision and tying everybody towards that one goal, and everybody knowing their part on the team and not keeping them in the right lane and stuff like that along the way as well. That was mistakes I did in the beginning because I was so versatile doing a lot of different things, right? So when I hired people, I was kind of thinking people would learn whatever they needed, but in general, only passionate people do that, people that want to level up all the time. So you end up.
We have an academy here. We have a quality control academy. It's like almost like a classroom. And we have supervisors that help correct and train people. So we never just, if somebody's messing up, we never just say, okay, do better, work harder, work smarter.
Yeah.
We actually have invested in a team of people that actually have we have daily classes and daily training downstairs. And we train people on everything. We help them. It's a very good thing to have.
I think that's missing a lot. I think managers, especially of course here in Norway, it's hard to get fire people and terminate people, especially if you're employed, because it's really labor party controlled and socialist country, right? So you have to have a contract, you have to warn them, you have to have 3 sessions of written communication, explaining exactly what's wrong, giving them a period to which is a good rule to give them a period to improve, and then do another evaluation meeting. But
it depends who you ask. Like here's the thing that I've known in growing a successful business is you have to be quick to hire and quick to fire.
Yep.
Because the reality is we typically have about a 30-day period from the time that we have an issue with an employee.
Yep.
We have about a 30-day correction. If that thing doesn't get corrected in 30 days, they're out of here.
Otherwise, you're running cash. I believe in every investment in the company, including HR versus non-HR. They all have to create a ROAS, or at least have some purpose. So the 2 questions I asked is, okay, how much money are we earning on this cost, whatever it is, HR, whatever it is. And if it's a position that doesn't earn money, then, for example, accountings or accountants or other positions which are still required. The question is, okay, what happens if we remove that cost? And we have to remove that cost. What will happen to the top line? So of course, positions which don't really provide value, but they're critical for the operations, will then cause at least a long-term, quite soon dent in the turnover on the top. So
absolutely.
Yep. And finding the right people that are self-driven, because 8 hours is not a lot of time, it's easy to waste, so having the right people that understand time management, understand business value and prioritization, and, walk in there, not just working their hours, but focused on making something happen is really key. So if you guys are listening, whoever's listening now, that's really one of the super skills if you're starting out wanting to become an entrepreneur, is understanding the principle of time management and utilizing your 24 hours. That's really, I would say, it's one of the top reasons why I've been able to create growth. And I'm quite sure, without even asking you, that that's one of your big issues too, because without execution, it's just dreams, right? You have to convert those dreams, and you only have 8 hours to work and only that much brain power. So you need to really choose your stuff correctly. I'm sure you're overloaded, Vic, with a lot of tasks every single day. So if you really would sit down and work, I'm sure you could work 14 to 16 hours every single day, but you don't have that time, right? So you have to make sure to spend your valuable time on the really, really critical ones to make them happen. And, I'm constantly talking to my team about having goals. We have this sprint way of working, where we're basically creating goals every month, every week. And then basically reporting on those through daily huddles to make sure we're on track and making sure to remove blockers along the way. And it's really a profound impact, getting a lot of people to understand time management, getting a lot of people to actually think through what to do today, find the top 3 things to complete today, and remove the word working on. I don't like that word. So, I want my staff to, okay, we're this much far towards completing this, but, working on is not something I like. It's become one of these words I don't like to hear, even because it just can be working on for literally 200 years, right?
That's true.
So cool. We're getting close to the end now, Vic, but it was amazing. My last question is, what would be the number one advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who has a great idea, wants to start up, but maybe they have some bills to pay, they have a family, they can't just, jump ship from their job. What's the number one advice you have as a successful person?
I think that the number one advice I would have is if you know that your concept, your idea is a viable thing, like you really know that it's viable and it can work, at that point, my advice is that I would do everything humanly possible to make sure that you follow through with that. And you have to persist and persist and persist. And I would just never give up. Like you can't give up. And that's probably the best advice that I could ever give, is if you know that your idea is a valuable idea, and it's going to help a lot of people, and that it's going to be profitable, and that it's going to serve you and your family, then at that point, I would do everything humanly possible to make sure that I follow through, despite every adversity, every setback, everything. Nobody can get in your way. Yeah, you have to persist. You have to persist, and you just can't give up. You just really can't give up. There were many times that I could have given up. There are many times that I could have sold out. Many times I could have just quit. There were many years, 4, 5, 6 years, that I was just making no money. My receptionist was making more money than me. And I had to just persist and persist and persist and not give up. So any ideas that people have that success is an overnight thing, and that you just all of a sudden you start a business and 6 months later you're driving a Lamborghini, it's false. Unless you're selling drugs, it just doesn't happen that quickly. I know.
Breaking the law.
Right, exactly. So that's always been my best advice, because that's something that I've always followed, and it's definitely paid off for me by just not giving up and just persisting despite whatever may come your way.
Yep. And don't make your own excuses, Don't blame people around you. You have the power. And
Yeah,
I think it's all up here, right? It's about your inner conversation. How do you keep your belief higher than your doubts, right? If the doubts start winning over your beliefs, you'll start getting into a spiral of doubts, which is for me the number one secure way of giving up in the end, right? So and you'll have, the bigger the change, the bigger your dreams, the more rejection you'll receive around you, right? So don't go around with
absolutely.
friends and talk too much about your ideas and how to do that, because what is the expected answer you'll get from somebody who is stuck where they are in an employment, right? They are different DNA. So if you're an entrepreneur by heart and you're wanting to make some change, understand that most people don't want to change. They like to live in their comfort zone. They like to do what they've been
Hmm.
doing for the last 5 to 10 years. So you won't get the answers you want. So I encourage you
Hmm.
rather to sit down alone, work out your plans in the quiet, don't talk too much about it, and try to reach out to people around you and find the right network around you. I think is really
Hmm.
key to support what Vic said right now. So that's cool. So if people want to touch base with you, Vic, where do they reach out to you?
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, my handle is my name at Vic Tipnis. And, I try to respond to as many messages as I can. So if you have a question about business or entrepreneurship, DM me and I'll definitely try to respond within 24 to 48 hours.
Super, Vic. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure having you on board. And I'll shoot you off a call when I'm planning on hitting Florida, and we'll see if we can touch base and have a beer or something, huh?
Absolutely, man. Maybe we'll go fishing.
Yes, let's do. I love that. Thanks, dude. Have a
All
great
right.
one.